Fulmer's design-build process has been a valuable asset to the construction industry. Also known as the master builder concept, this process of construction has been utilized to increase productivity, control costs, and provide innovative solutions to complete complex building designs. This concept, in conjunction with Fulmer's philosophy of building relationships, provides a unique opportunity for the owner. Our success is based on developing a team that meets and exceeds the goals of our clients.
This is a project we built for the Gonzalez Northgate Market Company in Anaheim, California. It's a 350,000 square foot building with approximately 150,000 square foot of freezer and refrigeration. One of the things under the freezer is we have to have a glycol system in the ground underneath the sub-slab, which then has insulation on top of that to protect the ground from freezing from the sub-zero temperatures. This project had a freezer of -10 and a 25-degree freezer. In the freezer area, when we pour the slab on top of the insulation foam, we use what's known as a laser screed. Because that foam is not able to withstand high loads, we have to use special flotation tires on the laser screed. It's able to set itself using the hydraulic outriggers, which we set them down on pads to spread the load out of the weight of the machine so that we don't damage the foam. But that's able to, with its arm, pull back the concrete in such a way that we have almost a perfectly flat floor. We have a cut showing the two different slab conditions for the cooler floor and then a freezer floor. At the freezer, we need insulation underneath the slab that goes on top of what's called a sub-slab. In turn, is over just the dirt, which has glycol lines running in the dirt to keep the ground from freezing. This is not required at the cooler slab because the temperatures there will not freeze the subsoil and therefore have a potential for the concrete cracking. We have the insulated panel and a section of foam coming down that separates the two areas, the freezing area from the area that's not going to freeze. We also have two concrete curbs on either side of the insulated panel that separates the two areas. And those are protection of that panel from forklift traffic and also from any other equipment that might injure it. On a project this size, we're able to have many things going on at the same time. We can be pouring slab, we can be in an area where we've already got the slab poured, we can be building our concrete panels. We have rebar going in, electricians putting his conduit inside those panels. That day we could also be pouring concrete in our panels, which generally starts about 2 a.m. When we're pouring as many as 100 trucks worth of concrete, we need to start early to get them off the road. Because of the size of this project, we're able to have a lot of infrastructure going at the same time. Even with all the different people there, and we are able to coordinate that and keep a safe environment as we have a separation between the trades, and that helps us in our overall safety record. Here we can see we have the roof structure going up even before we have the rest of the building walls up. The size of this job allowed us to do that. We use what's known as a crawler crane on our projects of this size, where we don't have a crane on the slab so that it does not get damaged. Years ago we used truck cranes, and the weight of the panel plus the crane would possibly damage the slab, and we don't do that anymore. One of the things we're able to do on a project like this, which is very large, is we can lift as many as 30 to 40 panels in a day very quickly because we have nice straight runs. When we lift the panels, we protect the slab by putting a piece of plywood under it so as we drag across the concrete we don't damage our slab. One of the things we have with the crawler tractors is we're required to keep the dirt really wet so the crawler can turn well. It's very critical that as the panels are set, our layout is down to within 1/8 of an inch. And the riggers, along with our concrete foremen, are very specific about where those panels set and how they align with each other. At this point, as the roof structure is getting ready to be put together, it's interesting to note that the different components of the roof structure are brought out separately. The OSB is brought out separately, the rafters are brought out separately, and they're all put together onto the trusses on what they call a table. And on this table, it's picked up by a grade-all. The grade-all has a specially designed head on it that allows it to swivel and tilt. And the operator, very skilled, is able to take that one section, which is the width of a bay, put that up, set that up in place on top of the girders where it's welded off, and then he comes back and picks up another. In the time it takes him to set that in place, another whole section is being put together on the table, so that operator is constantly working throughout the day putting these sections up. An average day is approximately 30,000 square feet up on the roof each day, and that's one table. In a project like this where we had 2 tables, we're able to put up 60,000 feet a day. We had a lot of window openings for the design, and that added a lot to the looks of the building. We have a cut showing the insulation for the roofs above the freezer and the coolers. We show that there's what's called a bleeder at the very bottom. It's a foam, comes away, a section of insulated panel that comes off horizontally away from the separation panel between the cooler and the freezer, comes up underneath our roof structure, and then based on the temperature requirement for either the cooler or the freezer, a certain number of layers and thickness of foam is put together to create the R value. And then on top of that, on our freezer, on this particular project, we use what's called a single ply roof. And at this one, we use PVC single ply roofing over the freezer areas themselves. For cost purposes, over the coolers and the rest of the building, we use a normal 4-ply built up roof, which is pretty standard for construction in Southern California. CRC, our roofing consultant, came up with a design that allowed us to have a very seamless transition between the single ply roof and the 4-ply built-up roof. They have the taper, and that just gave us a nice construction transition from the one thickness, the height and the amount of insulation required over a freezer down to what we needed over a cooler right next to it. Those layers are just layers of foam, different thicknesses. When they put the foam 4x8 sheets, they have to stagger the joints so that there's no possibility of heat or cold transitioning up very easily right through a joint. Now the first layer is actually mechanically fastened to the deck, and the next layers then are mechanically fastened to the one underneath it. In the areas where we don't have a single ply PVC roof, we use a 4-ply built-up roof with tar and granulated paper. We have full-time roofing inspection, third-party inspection at this time. We have the cooling tower, which was part of the overall refrigeration package for this project. Literally hundreds of sheets of foam was brought up to build up all the different layers required over the freezers and the cooler. Prior to the foam actually being installed on top of the roof, we have the supports for the ammonia system, the lines that carry the ammonia from the compressors over to the condenser units at the freezers and the coolers. Those lines all have to be welded in place and then insulated. All that is taking place at the same time as the roof is going on, which required quite a bit of coordination to make sure that the pipe supports are adequately sealed so we have no roof leaks. We see just actually air conditioning units for the office spaces down below. The engine room for the refrigeration, these are the big, large compressors and dryers and all the other equipment that goes for the ammonia system. In this project, we had a large area of office build out. Here we have the air conditioning lines going in, the support wires for the suspended ceiling, the T-bar. All this coordinated with that, and the electrician, plumber, air conditioning, all going at the same time. We have the refrigeration walls going up, and those are the interior condenser units that will be suspended from the ceiling for in the coolers and the freezers. Concurrently with the office build out, we also had the racking going up in what was the dry storage area. Coordinating the installation of the insulated wall panels for the freezers and the coolers, also the installation of the actual refrigeration components themselves, the interior condenser units, so that they would not interfere with each other during the construction process, took a lot of effort. Most of the walls up for the freezer, and these are now the refrigerated exterior doors for the areas where we have refrigeration. The lines are up already on the roof at this point, and then we'll come down and connect to those condensers. Here again, the glycol lines. And here's the glycol system itself with the heater, dryer, and all the rest of it. While this is going on, obviously the exterior of the project is still going on. Sidewalks, curb and gutter, asphalt paving, landscaping is all going at that same time. This is an on-site fueling, above-ground fueling system for their truck fleet. The finishes for this project were very specifically designed to elicit the Mexican background of the owners, the Gonzalez family. So the finishes, a lot of tile, a lot of wood, actually from Mexico, the doors, and then a product called Cantera stone, which was used on the entry and also quite a bit in the lobby. There's a lot of wrought iron and has a much more of a homey feel. Very interesting woods were used. One of the floors is made up of old wine vats that have been cut down, and they're from Europe, a lot of from California. Very interesting flooring. Also, one of the interesting things of this, we had a statue that the family owned of their father who'd come from Mexico in the late 1970s. And that was brought over and put in a particular little niche. A lot of the furniture was made in Mexico, specifically for this building.